Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. SIUK India is live with Falmouth University. We have Aarav and John with us today for the webinar. Aarav, please start with the presentation. Aarav, you are on mute. Please mute your mic because the presentation is not audible.
Or challenging aspects of the fashion industry. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen so that we can start a presentation. Great, there we go. So in order to start this topic, we need to ask the question, what is fashion? And we did some work around this in our department, and we decided that we wanted a very distinct answer to this question. And what we arrived at is this notion of fashion being a conscious of the times through clothing. So conscious being having an awareness, having a response to the times, the things that are going on, and basically being awake and using our eyes as designers in response to the changing world. And so if we ask that question right now, what is fashion in the context of the times that we're living in? We've been through some big changes in the last 12 months. We might decide that, you know, these images here are representative of the current times that we're in, which speak of change, evolution, and about consciousness, about being awake and aware. We often refer to this trend forecaster, A.Duggal, who is her work is she looks at the things that are happening in the world and then decides how designers might respond to that in the future. So she's a futurologist, she's a trend forecaster, and she's written something called an anti-fashion manifesto, which she states in this anti-fashion manifesto that the current state of fashion is obsolete, it no longer works, it needs to change. And within that anti-fashion manifesto, she is shining the spotlight on the ethics, the sustainability credentials, and consumer consumption that surround the contemporary Western fashion market and industry. And so if we think about what the fashion industry is in 2021, we have to look at the impact that it's having on the world if we're being conscious and we're reflecting on the times. So these are just some of the challenging points that could be raised around the fashion industry, and that might be around the environmental impact of the fashion industry. It could be around the psychological, social, ethical, moral impacts that the fashion industry has on the world. It might be looking at things like why we're using animal skins and farming animals to create clothes for ourselves, and we have technology that could create something alternative. It might be looking at the idea of child labour or pollution in global communities. It might be the way garment construction workers are looked after. It might be around racism and cultural appropriation. So these are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And the first thing that we're going to talk about in the context of the global fashion industry is this notion of fast fashion, and primarily fast fashion production, and i.e. how it's made. And fast fashion, for those that don't know, is inexpensive clothing that's produced rapidly by mass market retailers in response to the latest trends. Unfortunately, the statement on this slide is absolutely true. Fast fashion kills. And this is a garment manufacturing facility in Bangladesh called Rana Plaza. It's a 6-story building made of concrete, and each floor was filled with factories, hundreds of workers every day making clothes for the fast fashion market. This is the same building on April the 24th, 2013. And the building collapsed when it was full of workers making clothes. And it left 1,134 people dead and 2,500 people injured. And it collapsed because the building was unsafe. There were unregulated working conditions. And it was primarily It existed primarily to feed the Western fast fashion market. We're also going to look at the environmental impact of fast fashion. We can't talk about the fashion industry unless we think about this.
Fish, thousands of tons of fish, and there's a camel. There's been this claim that the garment industry is the second worst polluter in the world. I find that utterly staggering. The place that the Aarav see, and that's where I'm heading now. So this is a map of the Aarav, quite impressive, even on the screen. Enormous, half the size of England.
We are driving on the street right now.
Right now?
Yeah. We have been driving for half an hour.
Half an hour. That gives you an idea of scale of the problem here. To the right of us,
That used to be the causeway.
is that camel? Are they camels?
Yes.
I feel like this portrays perfectly what's going on here.
And so the video you've just seen there is it's demonstrating how the cotton farming market and the cotton processing requirements for fast fashion have drained a sea the size of worlds to allow us to buy cheap, fast clothes. And you're also here. You're looking at rivers that have been polluted by textile processing factories. So dyeing of cottons, dyeing of polyesters, factories that put different finishes onto our clothes, like different finishes for jeans. And often, because these are unregulated facilities, they use local watercourses to drain away a lot of toxic chemicals. These rivers are actually, they're used by local communities as their source of drinking water, cooking water, cleaning. So the pollution that is going into those rivers is directly affecting them in their everyday lives. A lot of the clothes that are made for fast fashion, 24% this research is telling us, cannot be resold, reused, or recycled because of the poor quality of them. So they end up in landfill. And now these are interesting figures around how long it takes these textiles to break down once they're in the landfill. So it takes 1 to 3 years for cotton fibers to break down. It takes 5 to 10 years for wool fibers to break down. 30 to 40 years for nylon to break down. And 100 years for polyester to break down. And polyester is the most popular of all synthetic fabrics, and it's used for as much as cotton. And it's also worth noting that a cotton garment will have been constructed using polyester thread. So these, imagining a t-shirt breaking down in 1 to 3 years is actually not true, because the threads would remain for another 100 years. What you're looking at here are polyester microfibers. And every time you put a load of dirty laundry into the washing machine and the cycle runs, at least 700,000 of those microfibers are released through the pipes of your washing machine down into the water processing, and it ends up basically in the sea or in the rivers. And the creatures that are in the sea and in the rivers are then consuming those microfibers. And then if we choose to consume those fish, we then consume those microfibers. So what's now happening because of our kind of like indulgence in fast fashion is that we are eating microfibers. This is what we're consuming now, and we don't actually know the long-term effects of those microfibers being inside of our bodies. We also can't talk about contemporary fashion if we don't think about the psychological impact of fashion. So we live in a world where, you know, our phone has become our mirror and our way of communicating with everybody. We're using things like TikTok and Instagram continually, looking at self-image, our identity, and looking at other people's self-image and identity and how that is sold to us through brands. And we're still being sold a terribly unhealthy self-image through the fashion media. So really super thin, undernourished girls selling clothes as an aspirational body image. This is an Yves Saint Laurent advert of recent times, which was banned in the UK because of the unhealthily thin model. There are constant narratives in the press around people that are working in fashion having anorexia and other eating disorders triggered by working and looking at that fashion industry. Here again is another headline where it's saying that the fashion industry still encourages anorexia. We also can't talk about fashion unless we think about fashion and cultism and cultural appropriation. Cultural appropriation is when a particular power dynamic in which members of a dominant culture take elements from a culture of people who have been systematically oppressed by that dominant group. So, namely white people oppressing people of color. So at the top, you can see a fashion campaign that uses Native American sacred garments to sell garments. You're seeing a Hindu Sikh's turban on a Gucci catwalk on a white model. And then you're also seeing this really, really kind of disgusting representation of Black history on a model on a catwalk. So, you know, that's the tip of the iceberg. But ultimately, what needs to happen is change. And one of the things that we decided to do in our department was we decided to make a statement that was responding to all of those things that I've outlined today. And we've decided to name that our Conscious Practice Manifesto. So it's our methodology that is going to underpin everything that we do in our school. And we've written this as in the Fashion and Textiles Institute, we encourage creative consciousness. Our practice is driven by the environmental, ethical, and moral challenges of our time, and we aim to make positive change in the world. And then we broke this down into the 4 headings, and we decided one of them was going to be people. And with that, we're saying we are curious, responsible, and aware. We decided to look at place where we might develop community and respond to locality. We decided to think about practice, the things that we do, the things that we make, where we would take risks and challenge the status quo. And we also decided that we would become better through partners and we would thrive by working together. Ultimately, we know that the choice we make as a designer, as a fashion practitioner, as a fashion photographer, stylist, or as an educator or a fashion student, every choice that we make has an impact. And we can decide for that to be a negative impact or a positive impact. Ultimately, we decided that conscious practice for us should be progressive, it should be forward thinking, it should always be exciting, you know, it should bring joy. Fashion is also about, you know, the way we present ourselves to the world. It's a joyous thing, it's about color and materials. It should be challenging, it should challenge all of those norms, all of those things that have gone on for so long that we've discussed today. It should be experimental, it should be functional as well. We really believe that good fashion is something that helps you exist in a day-to-day. So it could be a really great raincoat, or it could be a pair of trousers that you can wash hundreds and hundreds of times, but they still remain looking the same through really great textile technologies. It should be diverse and inclusive in everything that we look at. It should be clean, it should be as respectful to the earth as we can be. It should be ethical, responsible, respectful, and most of all, it should be timely, it should be contemporary, it should be responding to those times that we talked about in the initial statement around what fashion actually is. So for people, what we decided that we would be looking at in our department was a broader range of people in the context of fashion. So people of colour, people of different shapes and sizes, people of disability, people of different genders, new gender types, We like to listen to people that are making noise as well. So we're listening to people like Greta Thunberg and her sustainability noise that she's made globally. We're also interested in people like Edward Enninful, who's the first Black editor of British Vogue. With place, we're developing community and responding to locality. The first picture is representative of a really exciting project that we have on our campus, which is a natural dye garden. And in that dye garden, we're growing plants that can be used to dye textiles without using really harsh chemicals. So we're creating a very local textile factory, if we want to call it that. And this central image is at Kynan's Cove on the Lizard in Cornwall, not too far from our campus. And I think what's important for our students is that they get to engage with this amazing environment. It's completely different to being in the city, and that has an impact on their work and their respect for the earth and the things that are happening at the moment. And the last picture on this slide is how some of our students working in the studio, surrounded by placards and posters that they made, that they used on a Extinction Rebellion march at the start of the term last year. And when we think about practice, we think about the things that we make, the things that we do. And we like the idea of taking risks and challenging the status quo. So coming up with new innovative solutions. And so these are some of the ideas that we like. So the first image is an outfit by a designer called Christopher Raber, who uses dead stock, old, unusable materials. This is an outfit that's made out of old parachutes from the army. We love the idea of breaking the rules around what a model could be, you know, celebrating diversity, disability, different colours, different cultures. We love textile innovation. So we really like this dress by a designer called Iris van Herpen, who's pushing the idea of sustainability and longevity in clothing. And that's a similar story for the last picture, which is a jacket that was made by one of our students in our department, who was interested in the idea of making clothes that would last for a long, long time and transcend trends, and therefore reduce the need for buying more and more clothes. And ultimately, we really like working with partners. So that could be outside of our department or within our department. The first picture is a garment that was produced in collaboration by a textile design student and a fashion design student. So she made the fabric in the textile department on a loom, really beautiful fabric, and then the fashion student worked with that fabric to make the garment. So it was a lovely piece of teamwork that happened, and that happened in those studios, which is the far picture on the right, which is where all of our students were interacting together, seeing what each other are doing and having like informal conversations where something like that jacket might emerge. And the picture in the middle is from a brand that's based in New York, called Ryan Roche. We reached out to the brand because we felt that their principles were very similar to the ones that we have in our school. So they work with vegetable dyes. They work with women's cooperatives in Peru to deliver their buttons and make embroideries. It's a very progressive fashion brand, and we partnered with them on a second-year design project this year. I mean, if you're interested in things that we talked about today, there are some things that you can start to do to make just to make a little bit of noise. And so, if you do want to be part of a better fashion future, the things to think about are getting rid of the things that are outdated and welcome the new. And as young people, you know what's outdated and you know what's coming. Learn and understand the devastating impact of the current industry practice. I've only touched on a few things today. You know, they're very far-reaching. The more you understand things, the more you can make change. Be forward-thinking and bold. Don't be afraid of making sound and making a noise about the things that you believe in. Things happen through movement, and the more and more people that are involved, the more we're likely to see change. I think ultimately you need to keep things exciting and innovative, because that's what people want. They're going to be interested in those things. And I think the key thing is to do your research, refresh what you know, keep learning all the time. So you might want to ask yourself, and this is a little exercise that you could undertake, actually write these questions down and write the answers to them. What does conscious practice mean to you? What have I talked about today that you might think, actually, that really chimes with me, and I'd like to look into this more? What is the relationship between this thinking and your own design interests? You might be thinking now about just stepping out into a new, and into the next part of your education, and what that might look like, and what that subject area might be. And can you apply this, this concept of conscious practice to the thoughts that you're having now, and then take them into the future? And so with that, how do you intend to embed this ethos in your own developing design practice? How might you take that forward? How might you be somebody that changes things? And I would say create a sketchbook or a scrapbook, however you want to do that, that focuses on this idea of conscious practice. Just keep gathering, write notes in there. You're refreshing, you're researching, and you're learning all the time. Now, you can do something on a global scale as well. There's a fantastic organization called Fashion Revolution. Been around for some years now, and they're challenging on a global scale fast fashion production. And every year they have a week where you could be involved in different activities. You can connect with people across the world, and their website is fashionrevolution.org. And in 2021, the 19th to the 25th of April is the Fashion Revolution Week. And I really urge you to get involved, especially if you've become interested in things that I've talked about today, because they're going to go really, really deep down into all of those areas, and you'll find ways that you can help. So I'm going to say thank you for your time today. The last slide is a video that was produced by Fashion Revolution. And be good, take some action, and be those game changers.
Thank you, Aarav, for the presentation. So now we are moving towards the Q&A session, and we have few questions on YouTube. So the first question, the student wants to ask, I have 1 year gap. Can I apply for BA Honors Textile Design?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it depends as to what exactly is it that the student was doing. I mean, I'm sure John would be aware of this as well, that once a student applies, we go through their application and their portfolio. And as long as they can mention what is it that they were doing and how it's helped them gain more perspective towards being better in the course, then they can apply.
Thank you, Aarav. The next question the student wants to ask,
Mhm.
what are the top 5 employers for Falmouth?
Uh, um, there isn't a specific statistic, but rest assured that the faculty and the HODs at Falmouth are very, very well connected with the industry. Is that something that you'd want to talk on, John?
Yeah, I think it's a really varied exit trajectory that our students take. So some of them will go into industry in the UK, some of them will move internationally. We have a lot of students that come to Falmouth, particularly because of where it's located in the world. It's a really beautiful part of the world. They want to stay there when they graduate. So we have a lot of students that actually start their own fashion businesses or textile businesses. So it's a really varied route out. But I think one of the things that we're really secure in is that all of our courses in my school prepare the graduate for work. So there's very much there's a good success rate of students entering industry.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Aarav, for the answer. The next question, what IELTS score I need for a BA Honors Fashion Marketing course?
So we would require a minimum of 6 with no band less than 5.5. So yeah.
Thank you, Aarav. The next question, is a post-study work visa still available?
At this point of time, yes, but again, it depends on your employability options once you graduate. So if everything remains the same till the time you get a graduation, then yes, yeah.
Thanks. The next question, what careers I can choose after completing costume design for film and television BA Honors?
I think this is John. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Great. This is our second newest offer. It's a really amazing new course, and we actually wrote the course with in industry specialists, so that what we discovered was that the costume courses that already exist out there are certain gaps that needed plugging. So we've created a course that really propels people into industry. So there's this kind of pyramid of jobs that are available in costume design for film and TV. So the dream job is the actual costume designer, but there's costume design assistant, there's stylist, there's the on-set person that looks after the hero actor. There are people that break down costumes, there are people that are researching, and all of those areas feed into that costume design industry, and we cover all of those areas in the course. So I think most students will find what it is that they want to do through the experience of the course, and we'll nurture them in that direction to get where they want to be.
There you go.
Thank you, Aarav. Thank you, John. The next question, India is in lockdown. What is the situation in UK?
Well, go on.
We're emerging out of a lockdown that started in January. There's a kind of steady roadmap out of lockdown. There's a really big vaccination drive going on in the UK at the moment as well. 50% of adults have been vaccinated. They've had their first vaccine. So it's a slow, cautious move out of lockdown. We experienced a whole year of teaching through a pandemic, which I think we've done really well. So we've taught completely online, or we've given a blended model, which is some online and some on campus. So I think we've managed the best that we can and given the students the best experience possible, considering the state of the world.
Thank you, John. The next question, can you please give details for fashion photography course?
Details as in cost details, or more like entry requirements? I think
so the details must be the IELTS score, the entry requirements, the course year, like it is for 3 years or 4 years, and what else details you can add?
So yeah, as I mentioned, the IELTS score is pretty much same for any BA course or any undergraduate course. It's 6 with no band less than 5.5, which is very, very lenient from the university side, which I'm very proud of. Otherwise, in general, at Falmouth, we do understand that, since we're a creatively focused university, we believe in going through and seeing the talent of the student rather than other aspects of their education. So our entry requirements in general are relatively lower as well. I think we require a minimum of 65% in your grade 12. And yeah, and a portfolio obviously is something which is very, very important. A portfolio would be very nice to showcase the kind of talent that you have and what is it that your vision of taking a part in the course. So that's something that you need to work on as well if you haven't started. Anything you want to add, John?
Yeah, just on the portfolio, we're really, really interested in seeing the things that you're interested in. So it could be, if it's a digital portfolio, it may be 2 or 3 pages that capture some images that you really enjoy or photographer's work that you enjoy, because it's really good for you to be able to talk about that at interview. And just one more thing on the course itself, it's a really well recognized course now throughout the fashion industry. The course team really develop really exciting individual photographers by the time they graduate, and those graduates are now starting to work at a really high level in the fashion photography industry. So it is a really, really good option for fashion photography.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Aarav. So the last question, the student wants to ask, what is the accommodation process there, like for the admission process and the accommodation?
Okay, so admissions, obviously, you can go through UCAS, but I think now might not be the right time to go through it. So you can apply directly through our website, or you could take SIUK's help. I think they'd be very, very happy to help you out as well. As far as the accommodation bit goes, we have both on-campus and off-campus. As of last year, we have an accommodation that is completely vegan and alcohol-free. So, for the teetotalers out there, we have something now. But otherwise, it's also, if we are talking about prices, it's relatively cheaper as compared to other cities in the UK, simply because of the fact that we're a smaller and a more tight-knit community. And yeah, it's pretty easily available as well, so you don't have to worry about that.
And maybe to add as well that Falmouth, we see Falmouth very much as a 21st century art school and about a creative community and about different people from different courses mixing and talking about their experience. And I think that the accommodation that is on offer on campus is incredible for that. It's like a student village on the campus where you've got people from all different disciplines all living together and becoming part of that creative community from day one, which I think is really important and quite a unique offer as well. Quite a unique offer.
Plus, I think it also adds some cultural value to speak to different people from different parts of the world, which ultimately can inspire you to make different things and create different things as well. So, the more we talk about it, the better. But yeah.
Thank you, Aarav. Thank you, John. The same student wants to ask about the quarantine days and how many days they have to quarantine while coming to UK. And
14 days. That's, I think, standard through the world at this point of time.
And they're asking about the details. The accommodation will be provided first by the university, or they have to book their own?
So it depends. If you do apply to the university in the coming few weeks, then you would be eligible to, basically every first year undergraduate student is guaranteed an accommodation on campus. So let's just hope that if someone is applying for the university, then they apply before June so that we can start, seeing where is it that we can put them. So yeah, shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you so much, John and Aarav, for joining us today. Anything else you want to put forward for the students?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I'm the India representative of the university. I think Deepika would be very happy to share my contact details as well. So if there are any sort of doubts or queries that you may come up with later after doing your research about the course or the university, please feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to help you out with the entire process of your application. And yeah, hope to speak to everyone soon. John?
And maybe if there are any really, particular inquiries around the school itself that I run, or the really like fine details about any of the courses, to contact you, Aarav, in the first instance, and then you can put me in touch with anybody and we can communicate via email, or we could even set up a quick Zoom call or something like that.
Sounds perfect. I think that'll be an ideal situation for everyone.
Brilliant.
Sweet.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your valuable time. And to all the students, please feel free to connect to SIUK for any details you want to know. And you can also email A.Duggal. I will provide his email ID on the YouTube chat box. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care.
Fabulous. Thank you.